What's going on, guys? Welcome to the brand new video here on my YouTube channel. Another tutorial, another animation, and today we're gonna have a look at this type of animation where we are going to use a curve again, which is sort of going to be an expansion on my very first video where we used a curve to model out the Meta logo. But today we will take it to the next level. So first we will use a curve again to model out the logo, then we will animate it, add a really nice smooth gradient, we will animate these little details, and at the end we will create some cool little scribbles for that final touch. Once again, I posted this animation before on my Instagram account, so if you wanna stay in touch with some of my other works, then feel free to drop me a follow there, and yeah, request a tutorial on any other animations if you like any. Great, that's it for the intro. Let's launch Blender and jump in. We are starting with a clear scene in Blender, and we can go ahead and drag and drop our logo. So I'm using Apple logo for this tutorial. Now I'm pressing Alt G and R to reset the location and rotation. We can also switch to the top view and set the orthographic view by pressing here. And let's add our first curve. So Shift A, curve, and Bezier curve. Things like this, and let's give it some depth straight away. So over here in data properties, add the geometry. Over here just search for bevel, and here is the depth, and you can see now I'm giving it some thickness, so 0.8 is fine. Anyway, we will change the thickness later on. So let's switch to the edit mode by pressing tab, edit, and now we can take this vertex and I will put it somewhere around here. I will take this one and put it somewhere here. And now basically our task is to model out the general shape of the logo and what we want to create, okay? So it's not gonna be 100% clean, so don't be worried, we will clean it out later, okay? Let's take this vertex and press E to extrude. That way we can create another vertex. Now I will rotate it by pressing R and put it somewhere around here like this. Now again E and again rotate, because over here I want to put my first spiral, and then I will take another one, put it somewhere here, then I can press S to scale it. We can also put this one more over here. You can see I'm not super precise, but the goal again is to just create the overall shape of the logo. So something like this. Maybe we can immediately rotate this one. Then I will extrude again, but this time I will put it across the logo, something like this, and then E, extrude, rotate, and I will put it somewhere here, and then I will finalize the shape of the other side. So I will take this vertex, press E, extrude, and I will rotate it somehow around this curve like so. And right now we have the general shape. Now again, I know it looks absolutely disgusting, but now we will focus on cleaning it out and making it actually pretty. So first of all, I will switch back to object mode and I will increase the resolution under the data properties. And over here I will give 30, and then I will also give the curve a subdivision modifier by pressing Command or Control 3, or you can just go ahead over here and then search for a subdivision modifier, and I'm giving it 3 levels, okay? And right now it's all about repositioning the vertices, scaling them down, rotating them just like this, so we match the overall shape. I'm starting with this left side, just like this. Of course, here we have the intersection which we need to clean out. So first of all, I'm going to increase the thickness of this vertex by pressing Option S or Alt S. You can see that if I press it, now we are increasing or decreasing the thickness of this single vertex. So I'm gonna increase it actually, just like this. If I press R, now you can see we are rotating it on an X-axis, but if I press Y, you can see now we are rotating it on a Y-axis, which is exactly what we want, because that way we can decrease the intersection. So I can also put this one slightly lower, this vertex can go slightly higher, just like this, and then let's put it a bit more. I will actually switch back to edit mode and decrease the opacity of the image. So over here, let's decrease it to half, and again back to edit mode, top view, and now you can see we don't have any sort of intersection there, which is what I want. So again, I will also increase thickness of this vertex, but I position it slightly like this. This is fine. Then this one, to match again the shape of the logo, maybe slightly more. Let's put it a bit to the right side, like so. Now let's move on to this part. So here I want to do something slightly different. To give the logo some depth, I'm going to subdivide it to add one extra vertex. So having this vertex selected, I will also select this one, right click, and now subdivide, which will add another extra vertex. And now I will put it exactly to this one. And if I rotate my viewport, then I will put it exactly below this vertex. And then I can take this vertex, maybe scale it slightly. I can also rotate it like so. And then if I position it slightly lower, and this one, if I go back to top view, just so I respect the shape. So you can see it, we are not very precise, but that's okay because we can easily fix that. Just like this, and then this vertex, keeping it at the bottom, rotate it like this, then we can scale this part just like that. And if we scale this one out, you can see we are now getting the shape that we want. Obviously this part is not really necessary, but I just like to give the logo some extra depth, and this is a great part where we can do so. So again, back to the top view, and we will do the exact same thing in this part. So let's rotate it slightly. Now I have to select this one and then this one because that's the next one. Right click, subdivide, add an extra vertex, add it over here. So I will scale it first. Actually, let's create one extra because this one I will put somewhere around here, which I will smoothen out later. And then let's select these two and subdivide. Perfect. So then I will first put this one below like so, and then if I go back to top view, I can take it and put it right above it like so. And actually this looks already pretty good. Maybe I can just scale this part inside and this one outside to respect the shape of the logo. And then also let's take this top one and rotate it on x-axis, so that way we can reduce this crease. As you can see over here, it's not very pretty, so I will just position it somewhere like this. And the same with this part. Again, you can see over here we have this crease, which I don't really like, so I can scale this one out to get rid of it. And again, if I switch back to top view, we can make sure that now we will rotate it in a way that it matches the shape. And right now I basically made sure that we don't have any hard edges in the curve. Let's now focus on this part. So first of all, I can maybe scale this part, and over here let's make sure that it's nice smooth curve like so and like this. Then I will also probably add one extra vertex between this one and this top one. So again, select both, subdivide, and let's just put it somewhere here for now. That's okay. And then let's rotate it like this. And over here we are going to do the exact same thing as we did in this spiral. So if I select this one and now I press R and Y, you can see now we are rotating on Y axis. If I rotate the viewport, you can see now we can position it somewhere like this. I can also put this vertex higher. Then I can take this one and put it on Z axis like this, and this one maybe a bit higher, and this one we will put it lower as well. And let's rotate this one on the y-axis as well. Now you can see that none of them are touching, so that's exactly what we want. And let's now start adding some thickness. So I will select these vertices on the right side and press Option or Alt S, and let's give it extra thickness and also move them to respect the shape of the logo. Let's do the exact same thing with these ones. You can see again we have a crease over here, which is not what I want. If I rotate it, you can see now I'm getting rid of it and it's again nicely smooth. And the exact same thing is happening in this one. So let's again rotate it slightly and reposition. And then the last part, let's move this entire part over here just like this, and maybe make this one slightly thinner. So again, Option or Alt S like so, and then like this. One last thing that I want to fix is over here. You can see there is not a nice smooth curve. So the problem is in this vertex because this handle is smaller than this one. So if I extend it, you can see now I'm actually smoothing it out. So now I can actually scale both of them like so. And right now it's gonna be way smoother. Perfect, so that is the apple, and of course we are still missing the leaf. So again I will press Shift A and add another Bezier curve. Let's move it to this position, scale it down, and again let's give it some depth straight away, something like this. And I can go ahead and immediately put this vertex at the bottom and this one at the top. Let's rotate it like so. And then let's extrude it. We will need only 3 vertices for this leaf, so let's rotate it like this again to create a general shape. And with this vertex I will increase the thickness, so Alt S, and let's make it slightly smaller. We will do the exact same thing as we did with the spiral, so I will press R, Y, and I will put 270, so 270 degrees, and that way I will make sure that the hole or the curve is facing away from where we will position the camera. And the same with this vertex, but this time I will press R and this time X, and again 270, and let's put it over here just so we sort of cover it up. And one more thing that I forgot is if I put it here, you can see that the curve is empty inside, and that's not what I want, so I want to fill it, and that option is over here under bevel. If you press fill caps, and now it's full, and the same thing I want to do with this curve as well. And you might be wondering why we are not connecting the entire shape in one full curve. So for example that this part and this part would be connected. Well, the reason is that if I go to start and end mapping over here, we will be animating this shape, and you can see that now I can basically increase and decrease however I want. And if I fill it, which I can do over here on active spline, if I press U, now you can see it connects. And if I do that, you can see nothing is happening. So this is the reason why we are not connecting it. So if you know that you will not be animating the curves this way, then go ahead and press U over here and work with the fully attached curve. But in this case I'm gonna keep it separate because yeah, for this tutorial we are gonna be animating this. So that's why I'm trying to sort of cover it up the exact same way that we did in this case. So if I put them actually a bit lower, just so I make sure they are not intersecting with the upper part. If I go again to the top view, you can see that now we are sort of covering it up and being able to animate it later on. So if I just move back to the leaf and finalize it again, I will give it 3 levels of subdivision modifier and increase the resolution to 30. So again, back to edit mode, you can see we have a crease in the middle over here. So let's scale it up a bit, reposition, rotate on y-axis to smoothen it out, and then maybe we can position this one and rotate this part on y-axis like so, and the exact same way over here, and then maybe scale this one out like so. So this is our modeled logo. You can see it takes some time to smoothen it out and make it look nice. So I will now skip forward and do some final touches and see you in a second. So a couple of minutes later, this is what I ended up with. You can see it's somewhat smoother here, for example on the left side. So feel free to take a screenshot of this and put it in a blender and use it the exact same way as we did the actual Apple logo, this as a template. So let's move on and add a material to our logo. So first of all, I will hide this one, and let's rotate our entire logo by 90 degrees on the x-axis. We can put it slightly higher. Let's switch to render view, and over here I have a Blender add-on which is called Blender Kit. It's super useful and I recommend you to download it as well. It's for free, and for example what you can do is you can search for free HDRIs. So in my case I will search for a studio. So let's find a nice studio HDRI, for example this one, and let's press OK. Now we can close it, and let's create another window. So go over here and where the plus sign icons appear, and let's switch it to shader editor. Press N to close this window, and let's click on our logo and press new material. And this is gonna be super straightforward. So first let's search for a color ramp. Let's plug the color into the base color. Then let's search for a gradient texture, and again color into the factorial. And now you can see if I play around with these handles, it's either increasing or decreasing, which is going to give us that nice smooth gradient. But let's also add the texture coordinate and mapping node by pressing Ctrl T. And let's now play around with the gradient. So I'm gonna press the plus sign to add one extra color, and I will give it a somewhat for example, a bluish color, you can see now it goes here from white to blue, and here it's darker because over here we have a black color. However, you can see that now the gradient feels like it's actually projecting onto the logo, and it's not really nice. So the thing that we need to do is switch from generated to UV, and now you can see it's going all the way from the black to blue and then switching to white color. This is all the magic that we need. So right now you can go ahead, apply different colors and play around with different variations. So maybe something like this. And then what we're gonna do is increase the roughness all the way to 1. And another thing that I'm gonna show you is setting the background to black color while keeping the HDRI active. So if we switch from object to the world tab, you can see now we have a node that is going from the HDRI with the background that has a strength of 1. So I'm gonna search for a mix shader and plug it over here. And then I will take the background, I will take this node and plug it in the top part and the background into the bottom shader. We will search for a light path and then for a math node, like so. And then we will take is camera ray and is transmission ray. I will not go into details why these ones, but that's just for you to remember forever because it's super useful if you want fully background color like this while keeping the HDRIs active. And now we can switch back to object. I will leave this up to you. Just play around with different colors. Maybe this one a bit darker and this one a bit more bluish like this. And you can also experiment with different options that the drop downs give you. So for example, under gradient texture, if I change it to quadratic sphere, you can see now we have a different look. Then we have spherical, again slightly different, easing, and so on and so on. For example, if I change it to object, again we have a projection, then normal, that gives you this type of look. So you can see there are so many options. Go ahead, experiment with those, play around, and yeah, you will get a hold of them pretty quickly. So now we are just missing to give the exact same material to the leaf. So click on it and let's give it the same material. And I don't really like this part, you know, where it's this hard edge because it's going straight from purple to green. So let's copy the material by pressing here, and maybe let's change the purple one to this exact same greenish color. So hex, copy the code, go to the purple, click and paste the, and now we sort of get rid of that harsh edge. Alright, I'm really happy with these colors, so now let's go ahead and animate the curves. So for that, we will just switch this view from the shader editor to graph editor because we will need it in a second. Again, press N to disable this window. And from 250, let's decrease it to 120. That should be enough. And let's also set the starting keyframe as a 0. So having the logo selected, we can go again to the data properties over here. I've already touched upon this in this video. So if we scroll down under bevel, we have the option to start and end mapping. So let's open it. I will switch back to solid view so it's not laggy. And like this, we can give the logo a nice reveal effect. So in this case, I'm actually going to set it to 0.5 and this end to 0.5 as well. And right now we can simply animate to both sides at the same time. So I'm going to set keyframes by hovering over this and press I, and the same with this one. And then we can go to the end of the animation, so 120. And now we can set this one all the way to 1 and this one all the way to 0. And now if we set the keyframes again, pressing I or clicking over here, if I preview it, you can see we have this reveal animation that goes from the middle all the way to both ends. And because we have the graph editor over here, we can now select all the keyframes, and having them selected, I can press T to set it as a Bezier curve. And then I will switch the pivot point to individual centers. And then if we press S, we can now scale the graphs like this inside. I can actually frame it all. You can see now we are making the animation the fastest in the middle. So it starts very slowly, it goes fast in the middle, and ends very slowly once again like the beginning. To my taste, the animation is still a bit too slow, so I'm going to actually decrease the length of the animation and put it to 80 frames. Let's now scale it back like so. And now even more. Now it should be fine. Yeah, this is perfect. And now we can animate the leaf the exact same way, but to make it easier for us, I can just select the leaf and then pressing shift and select the logo. And now if I press command or control L, I can now link animation data. So if I now preview it, you can see we have the exact same animation for both curves. However, I will make it a bit faster again for the leaf because it's way smaller object, so I think 50 frames should work fine. But again, I think it will be now too fast in the middle. Yeah, you can see. So let's now scale it down as well, just to not make it too fast. And I think this is perfect. So that is everything that we will do with animating the actual logo. So now let's close this window and let's add a camera. So Shift A and click on camera. Let's put it in front of the logo. Now we can press here to align the view to camera view, and I will press G and Y to put it a little bit more to the back, and now G and Z to put the logo exactly in the middle like this. And if you want, you can now go ahead and export the animation, but in my example I also used a little objects to spice it up a bit and also add in the little scribbles. So let's add the first one. I will press Shift A, and that one is going to be a torus. I can give it 2 levels of subdivision, so Command or Control 2, and let's also shade it smooth. And the only thing that we are gonna do is go over here to constraints, and we will follow a path, and with the eyedropper tool I will select the Apple logo. So first let's scale it down, and then let's switch the up axis from Z to X, and then I will also select a follow curve like so. And now if I test it out, you can see that we have a torus that is following the shape of the logo. So I'm gonna scale it a little bit more, and we can actually animate it straight away. So first I will put it like here, and I will go to the 0 keyframe. So let's set a keyframe again, press I on the keyboard, and then let's go maybe 70 frames, and then let's put it over here like this. Set another keyframe. So now we have a torus that's moving like this. It's a very simple animation, but it gives a little nice detail. For the second object, we're gonna create a spring. So Shift A and mesh, and this time we will select the circle. Let's put it here, scale it down. Let's also apply the scale, so Command or Control A, all transforms, and now we're gonna give it a screw modifier. You can see it's huge, so let's scale it down as well, and I will give it 4 iterations. And then if we drag this one up, now you can see that we are creating a spring. And let's also set the axis to Y, and let's also increase the resolution from 16 again to 30. And I want to put it on this part, so you can spring to this part. So let's press G and put it somewhere here, and let's rotate it on Z axis. I will also scale it down a bit more. You can also press F to zoom in on the spring, and let's bring it outside like this, and now it's facing this part of the logo. However, you can see that I made a mistake by keeping the origin over here, so let's rotate it by R, Z and 180 to switch it up. And I will actually increase the angle to make the spring a little bit longer, something like this. And now you can see that we can animate the spring bouncing up and down. So let's go to 0 keyframe, and let's shrink it down all the way, just like this. Again, set the keyframe, pressing I, and maybe let's go 1 second, and then we can scale it up, let's say to 2.2 meters. Again, press I to set the keyframe, and if I preview it, you can see it's sort of matching the distance between these two parts. So we can go ahead and make it a bit more bouncy. So I will just copy the first keyframes, and then one more time to 90, and again let's go to graph editor, select all the keyframes, press N, set a Bezier curve, pivot point to individual centers, and smoothen it out like this. And let's create one extra object, because I'm sure you get the point by adding extra details. But to not make this tutorial too long, I'm just gonna add the plane. So I will actually add a cube, not a plane in this case, because I want some thickness. Let's scale it down like so, and then I can also switch to the front view, and I will position the plane somewhere around here. Let's scale it up a bit, and I will round the edges by going to edit mode, and by pressing Command and Option and clicking on this edge, you are able to select all 4 of them, and pressing Command or Control B, and let's give it 6 iterations like so. and then let's shade it smooth, and that's how we can create the simple plane. And to animate this plane, we can stay on the frame 70, and let's just press N to bring up the rotation and location values. So hovering over these, I will set a keyframe to stay like this, and then to 0 I'm going to position it slightly lower, and then I will also rotate it on the x-axis and also drag it a little bit back on the y-axis. And again, let's set the keyframes. Let's go to front view and preview it with the logo. Okay, you can see over here it's overshooting with the logo. This is not what we want, of course. So let's go back to the frame 0 and let's put it slightly more to the front on the y-axis. Reset, and now it's not overshooting and it's just sort of rolling into the scene like this. Awesome. And as always, let's go to graph editor and just smoothen out the animation. You can go to view, frame all to have full visibility, T to select Bezier, and individual origins one more time, and let's smoothen it out like so. Okay, the last thing that we are missing to do here in Blender is giving these little objects a material, and I'm going to give it a fully transparent material by clicking new, and then I just go to transmission. Of course, we have to switch back to render view, and under transmission, let's drag the weight of it to all the way to 1, and let's also decrease the roughness all the way to 0. So I can select the other two little objects, and then again this one by pressing Shift, Command L, and link materials. So we copy the material to other objects as well. And I see that here is a little reflection on the left side of the plane. So I'm going to the 70th keyframe where we set it up, and I'm only going to press R twice, and I will just rotate it slightly outside like this. And then if you press N, I can again set a keyframe, and now I don't have any reflection in there. Awesome. And right now we can go ahead and export our animation, and for that we will use 25 frames per second and as a PNG file. Of course, set the location where you want it to be saved. 150 samples is totally fine. And over here under color management, I recommend you to switch from filmic to standard if you have it by default. And also we can decrease the total frames, because as you can see, the last keyframe is over here on 90, so we can change it from 120 to 90. So this is how my animation looks fully rendered out as an image sequence in After Effects. You can see I added this little ball and these little glass sticks on the left side, which are just basic curves once again. And we will do the scribbles over here in After Effects. Now I do realize that not all of you have a subscription for After Effects, and it's actually possible to create these 2D scribbles in Blender as well with a grease pencil. For example, I have worked with a grease pencil on this animation for Twitch, so feel free to let me know in the comments if you would like me to create another tutorial where I'm going to explain the similar process, but this time with a grease pencil in Blender. Alright, let's dive in. It's going to be super straightforward. So if we double click on the layer, you can see it opens as a layer in a new window, and we can go ahead and select a brush over here. And then all we need to do is go to paint and set the duration to single keyframe. And in brushes, you can select whichever you want. I will select the size of 5, that's enough. And we can start, for example, in the top part over here where we have the ball. So I will actually start here from the back, and we will find the right keyframe to create our first scribble. So over here, and I can just draw like so. You can see we have set it up to a white color, and then if I press Command and left arrow, I can go one keyframe back, and then I will add another one, again another one. It can be over here, it should be behind the ball, so we don't need to go all the way. Then like this, and now I can just keep going back by pressing Command and left arrow like so. And because we have selected it to the single keyframe, it means that the duration of this line is 1 frame only. So I can go like this, like so, and now I can start making it shorter like this, so then it creates an effect like it's actually growing while the leaf is revealing itself, so something like that. And now let's put maybe 2 more like so. So now it's super short, and if I preview it again with a command and right arrow, and if I actually play the animation, you can see it's a little nice detail, and it sort of creates like a path for the leaf to reveal itself, which is, yeah, again, it's a nice detail, and you can have so much fun with this. So let's create one more, and this time I'm going to create an apple on this plane. So I will just find a keyframe where it's already not moving, so somewhere around here. Oh my god, I I cannot draw at all. So this one is acceptable, I guess. Then again, command and right arrow, and let's redraw one more time. And again the top and the little leaf, and now I can create the little Easter egg to start biting the apple off like this. You can see it's super rough, but that's actually the purpose. Like, I like the combination behind just hand-drawn scribbles with the nice looking animation. And let's add a leaf, and now you can see it creates an effect of an apple that's slowly being eaten up. And I can actually go to paint, and all these keyframes are actually the ones that we created for the apple. So I can go and select all of them, and let's press Command or Control D to duplicate them. Let's drag them on top, and now I can put them in behind. So now it's just slightly longer. So if we preview it, we created this scribble at the top and then this apple on the plane. So let's create one more for this tutorial, and again you can go ahead and create as many as you want in your case. And let's maybe create the spring, so sort of like an outline. So first I will start like so, and then I will go another keyframe, and then I can add another one, and then another one like so. Let's do like this, and then again we can leave the first one out to make it feel like it's actually moving up like this. And then last one, and we just created another 2D spring that's sort of growing around the actual 3D one, which is really cute in my opinion. And that is the tutorial done. I know it was quite extensive this time, but I really hope that you learned something new and you can create some really cool animations with the techniques that I showed you today. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. I'm gonna be releasing another tutorial very soon, and down below in the description I'm gonna leave a link where you can get the entire project file from today's tutorial. And that's it guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.